What's going on, people? It's your man, the YB, back once again. Big shout out to my doggy JR in for coming through and boosting up the coin. So, oh man, I got a story to tell you, man, right now about this plumber, light skinned Plumbington Anthony Yarde. He almost got me bumped. I put a oneer on him. The odds were you put 100 on Yarde and you win 20 at the start of the fight. Thank Jesus himself. When the fight started, he got to 3 rounds, and all the unwashed gambling masses, the odds hadn't changed. But after 3 rounds, I knew Yarde ain't come to fight. This looked like the first fight did. Didn't want to do nothing in there. And we know Yarde fades down the stretch, so I changed my bet up, and I changed it to Yarde on points. I didn't want to risk 100 quid because I thought the fight was close, man. It was life and death, man. I put some money on a draw. I put 2 quid on a draw as well, at like 30 to 1. Early on in the fight, when Yarde was still the heavy favourite, I thought it could have been a draw. I thought Yarde could have nicked it. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what happened to Arthur, man. Arthur bumped my coin as well. This clown Arthur. Maybe it's the moody bet 365. I put a tenner, yeah? I put a tenner on Lyndon Arthur to throw the most jabs. All he does is jab. Next thing I know, he's on the ropes the whole night. Was his legs tired? I think, well, listen, Lyndon Arthur, he retired and only came out for this fight. So he probably won't even... He ain't going to come back now. It was a big money fight for Anthony Yarde that lured him back in. So he probably weren't even trained. If he had been trained, he wasn't jabbing for the last half of the fight. Like, that's your game. Early on, the rounds are nip and tuck. Because of Arthur's jab. Then when he's on the ropes, Arthur was still working off the ropes, but it's hard to win a fight when you're constantly on the ropes and Yarde's weighing on you. It's hard to convince the referees. We know referees score pressure. Was it effective pressure? Not really. Not really, man. Yarde went life and death again with a British level guy. Arthur's British level. So one of 2 things are true here from Yarde. Number 1, he can only get up for serious fights, which isn't actually true. How do we know this? Look at Lyndon Arthur too. It's a Yarde psychologically is not all there, yeah? He came out of Lyndon Arthur, like the first fight. He came out all politicking. That second fight, he looked like a supercharged version of Canelo. He comes out, wading in, putting massive shots together. Now I think what's happened is, after he fought that Latvian plumber, Deliveroo dude, and he was goosed after 10 rounds. And on about 6 rounds, he was knackered and hanging. I think he understands. He clearly has cardio issues. But Turbiev, his wheels fell off, but we can excuse it. Kovalev, his wheels fell off bigly because he blew his load. The Latvian plumber, he went life and death and blew his load, even though he weren't really doing much in there either. This fight, he comes in. I think his plan was, I don't want to blow my load over 12 in case it goes 12. So what I'll do is I'll ease into the fight. And it was 50-50. It was 50-50 the whole way, man. That's the truth. But he thought, I'll ease in. And I did see him try to up the pace in the last 6. Or in the last 3 or 4. He did try to up the pace. But Lyndon's is tricky. And it wasn't a good look, man. Honestly, I think Yarde might have to change his style to being I'm filling you in 6. Right, shit or bust type thing. Because that Lyndon Arthur 2, that is the peak of Yarde's career. Yes, he fought well against Beterbiev. But I'm saying the best I've seen him look, overwhelming force, Beach of Normandy, is Lyndon Arthur 2. Can you maintain that for 12 rounds? Never. But still, if he goes in there with someone like Buatsi like that, yeah, as bad or as good as Buatsi may be, if he goes in there with Callum Smith or Buatsi with that, he's getting boxed up every time. Every single... I don't care about styles make fights. Yarde's getting boxed up every single time he gets in there with Callum Smith or Buatsi like that. Because you see, when Buatsi and Callum Smith are fighting on the inside, strong, toe-to-toe, Yarde should have been having his way with Lyndon. Lyndon wasn't holding his feet and fighting on the centre of the ropes. Lyndon was going back to the ropes, so he was giving up the real estate. But Buatsi's not going to be laying on the ropes. Callum Smith ain't going to be laying on the ropes. Yarde had all he could handle, people. Yarde had all he could handle with a retired dude who didn't look fit. Because when he looked fit, it was 50-50. Then when he's on the ropes all the time, it was 60-40. That's what ultimately won Yarde the fight. Buatsi and Callum Smith, they can do... Come on, man. Come on. So I think Yarde needs to understand now, his niche, bottom line, his niche is, I got 6 to 8 rounds, good proper 6 rounds probably. I got 6 rounds of overwhelming force, and a lot of man he might cause serious problems. It's not so much you need to stop them in 6. If you can have, for example, let's say he didn't stop Arthur in the first, I think it was 4 rounds, but let's say you didn't stop him then, but you've put such a thing on them. It's a bit like Canelo. Canelo's renowned for starting fast. You whack them on their arms so hard they think, Callum Smith was broken by Canelo. That's the kind of power Yarde has. Go in there, set pace early, and just be... I've been saying it for years, but Yarde, man, he does too much of the moody shoulder roll. Stick it, Canelo. That's what I see from Yarde. Because Yarde does have the little bit of head movement as well. So does Canelo. I see the punch-for-punch power. It's not... Canelo and Yarde, they don't have one-punch knockout power, but it's that bludgeoning force they have, I believe. Yarde spends way too much time. It's like... listen, Canelo, he'll put his hands up here and he'll plod forward. He'll do the odd pull back and turn his head every now and then, but he's not... Yarde's like doing way too much movement for someone with heavy hands, I feel. Stick him here, get on him, and whack him on the ropes. That's how Canelo made the prime of his career. Sticking his hands on his head, Mexican style-ish. Canelo don't really want to fight when it comes to a fight, but still... In principle, 90% of people Yarde by sticking his hands on his head, and he burns all of his gas doing things that aren't scoring points. Stick him here, walk in, and bet on yourself. I know if I whack this dude somewhere, it's going to hurt him. That's what was missing for me. The consistent pressure. Canelo, hands on his head. He'll press you to the ropes. Whap whap, a 2-piece, or a 3-piece, or a 1-piece, and he'll reset, and he'll let Lyndon Arthur, for example. Go in there, hands stuck on here. Walk through Lyndon's jab. The same way Canelo was walking through Plant's jab, or... You can't tell me Lyndon Arthur's jab's any better than Plant's, or what's his name? What's the other dude? Who did Canelo walk down? Kovalev. Yeah? You put your hands on here, you catch him, and you get him to the rope and you whack him with something heavy. A couple shots heavy. And then you let him reset. Yarde was the last few rounds when he's supposed to be pressure fighting, it looked like. He was boxing for the first 6. The last half-ish, I can't remember exactly, but he starts... Well, Lyndon's legs give out. That's probably the better story here. Lyndon, for some reason, stops doing what he does his whole career, I believe because he's not fit. If he'd have carried on doing that, Lyndon might have won. He just completely neglected... Lyndon is known. There's a reason I put the bet on for Lyndon to win, to score the most, to throw the most jabs. That's all he does normally. He just started sitting on the rope, but again, he must be... Well, we know he's retired and he ain't been training. That's what it looked like. Because if he'd have been able to carry it on, he might have won that fight, seriously. If he'd have been fit enough to carry on the jab, his best shot, he'd have won that fight. How do you fight them top dudes? You stick your hands on your head, man. You wear their legs out, and bosh, babosh, 2-beat, babosh. Instead, what we saw from Yarde, Lyndon Arthur's legs gave out, similar to Plant, the way Plants did at the end. The difference was, Yarde, rather than taking a step back, having a look and setting something up, he'd just be trying to maul with him. It's almost like he's over-revving. Yarde was trying to maul with him, and it was messy and he's getting caught. You don't really see Canelo. Canelo, he'll set himself. He'll press you to the ropes. Double jab, right hook. Double jab or single jab, left hook. And then he'll reset. Yarde was like getting to the ropes messy and then having a mess off, and it's like he's in 2 different worlds. I believe the best way, unless you're super IQ and you can do it all, which is very few fighters, the best way to approach a fight is go in there with one strategy, man. Yarde's all over the place. Yarde and Tunde, they think he can do it all. So he goes in there, we'll box a little bit and we'll do a bit, and then we'll do some pressure fighting. It's knockoff. It's jack of all trades. That performance tonight looked like a jack of all trades performance. He can do a bit of everything, but nothing do you sit there and say, whoa, that's phenomenal. That makes sense. No one can watch that and tell me Yarde's pressure fighting in that fight was phenomenal. No one can tell me he's boxing. He was going life and death. It was a 50-50 boxing fight with Lyndon Arthur. Compare that to Yarde versus Arthur 2. That looked like, whoa, this guy's got something special there. And it's not the case of, what would you say? In Yarde versus Arthur 2, he looked focused. He was pressuring and he was putting heavy hands on him. Sometimes when fights are lesser stakes and or you think you can touch someone with anything and they're going to go down, I think he got carried away with the success of the second fight. That's why he picked this first fight. He thought, oh, this is an easy KO. Oops. You stunk the place out and went life and death. What is wrong with these men? What are you training for? The mentality, plumber or not, that's why I rate people like Golovkin or whatever. Plumber or not, he's consistent. He doesn't drop his level. Oh, I've fought this guy before, so I'm going to drop my level. Or, oh, this guy's easy, I'll drop my level. It was only the embarrassment. If you can only get inspired, to do things properly when you've been lost, which is what happened the first time. Yarde lost to Arthur, and it inspired him to come and do someone some serious harm. That's the only thing that can inspire you. It's like, he's probably finished, man, seriously. I think Yarde's going to be a kind of a British derby fighter now. People like Smith. He's been way too inactive in his whole career. Way too inactive for a young... someone like him, is quite twitchy. You're best when you're young. He's not Roy Jones, but there's elements. He's quick. He's somewhat cat-like for someone that big. I'm trying to think of someone with as much twitch. Twitch for twitch at 175. You tell me someone who matches Yarde. I don't believe there's no one who matches him twitch for twitch. Can he sustain it? No, but you get the point. Them fighters are good at 28, 30 tops. Not into when you get to 35, which really reinforces my opinion. When you get to 35 and that twitch and that cardio start to drop off, man, you got to go back to the straight up and down. With the kind of attributes Yarde has. Hands stuck here. And I'm plodding in like Canelo. And I'm touching you with something heavy, and then I'm resetting, having a little bit of a rest, and pressuring you again. Consistency. Golovkin, same situation. You never really saw Golovkin just mauling on the ropes. Unless he had someone out of there. And even then, when Golovkin would maul people on the ropes, it was like a refined, I'm looking, I'm picking. It was like, he's trying to do the shoulder roll, he's trying to move way too much, and it's messy, you're getting clipped in between. Messy, man. Jack of all trades, master of none. This performance was. Lyndon Arthur 2 was this guy's a serious. This has potential. Obviously, Lyndon is British level, but that if he was able to scale on what we saw in Lyndon Arthur 2, this guy's got world championship levels. That was a world championship level performance in there. You can say Yarde looked like a world championship level pressure fighter in that Lyndon Arthur 2. This looked like a British level. It was British level. This was a British level, jack of all trades. Call me a liar. What do you see Yarde do great or do world championship level? Not one thing. And this has been the trend. He fought that Latvian plumber. What do you see him do great? Nothing, really. Okay, he caught him in early rounds. Again, that's his twitch, though. We know he's got good twitch. How do you apply that? You don't apply that by burning your energy, boxing someone else's fight. Yarde thinks he's the second coming of Floyd Mayweather, Dimitri Bivol, and just throw all the names in. He thinks he's all of them mixed into one. Tunde pumped it in his head. Oh, you can do it all. No, you can't do it all, man. Because when you tried to box with Lyndon Arthur British level, you got boxed up. You tried to box with him in the first 6 until a retired man's legs give out. You was getting boxed up. He was looking like it was going to go left for you. You were getting a boxing lesson. Getting jabbed up. So you can't do that. That's what the evidence shows now. You're not a boxer like that. You're not of Mayweather. You're not. You can't sit on the outside. Tunde and Yarde think, oh, I'm Mayweather. I can just sit on the outside and pick people apart. You was picking nothing apart. You was fixing to get picked apart like the first fight. That's how it's fixing to go for you. That's not your edge. How can these trainers not see that? I don't understand what they're looking at. Extremely twitchy, heavy hands, and you're burning it all with waist movement and trying to score a jab. And Yarde, he'll explode in, throw a jab, and then roll, and he's doing all this. Do you know how tiring that is? And half the time he'd flip the jab out there and do all the rolly rubbish, and it wouldn't land. Or well done, you've scored one jab, and then because he's doing all the movement and whatnot, he hasn't gained no ring real estate. When you throw a jab out there, explosive jab, but then you're rocking and rolling, you're not pressuring someone to the ropes. So you've spent all that energy to maybe land a jab 40% of the time. Canelo. Yeah, pop, left hook. Hands here, walking in. What's Lyndon going to do, man? What's Lyndon going to do? He can't punch like that, man. Lyndon can't punch like that. It's called a spade here. Fair play to Lyndon, but he can't punch. Why are you faffing off in the middle of the ring against someone who can't punch, man? If you're world level. What do you think Beterbiev will do with that dude there? So it can't be about the punch power. If Beterbiev can walk into him, what do you think Canelo would do with Lyndon? Lyndon's similar to Plant, really. Canelo walks straight into Plant. And Plant's a world champion and a pretty good one at that. I'd say Plant's better than Lyndon, bottom line. But Canelo walks straight into him. So if Canelo can walk straight into and pressure and chase Plant from rope to rope for 11 rounds, why can't Yarde do that with Arthur? Oh wait, he can do that. He did it in the second fight, but yet his mind's gone, man. The light-skinned mind, we already know. They call them half-bakes for a reason, man. The genes are just no good, man. These half-bakes are no good, man. Let's call it a spade. The genes are no good, man. So I don't blame him. It's not his fault. He half-baked, but still, these half-breeds, man. They call them mutts. They call them half-breeds. Who here wants what are them dogs called? When you have a good dog, a premium? No. There's a type of premium dog. But the point is, half-breeds, mutts. Yeah? Half-breed, you don't want to mix mutt, right? Pedigree, that's it. You want the pedigree, man. Y'all don't know pedigree. He half-breed. That's what he is. Not his fault, but this is true. I saw a half-breed performance in there tonight, people. Is what I saw. Dude don't know what he's doing. Tunde don't know what he's doing, man. He looked gun-shy. And gun-shy is hard to define. You could argue, well, YB, he's not gun-shy because he was, in the last few rounds, he was on him. But it was gun-shy as much as, there's a certain range that not shot pressure fighters like to fight at, like I've mentioned. Beterbiev, Canelo, and Golovkin. You don't see them just trying to make it messy. They want that half step back to have a look. Bap. He wasn't doing that. And when you're shot and you're nervous about what's coming back from Lyndon Arthur or you're not confident, there's two safe places in the ring. Yeah? Or safer places. When you're chest to chest with someone, it's relatively safe. They can't get leverage. So people who are shot, they want to be on top of you or out of the way. In both occasions here, Yarde was either well out of the way, faffing around, or he was on top of him, making it messy. He wasn't confident enough to sit there, catch, bosh. It sounds simple, but that's the truth. You don't see... Show me a video where you've seen Golovkin, in there, messy, head moving, trying to do all this rubbish on the ropes. No. He's breaking you down. There's no consistency. There's no strategy. It was rubbish. And he should have really... From bearing in mind Lyndon was retired, he should have probably lost that fight, to be honest. If you account for the fact Lyndon's retired and wasn't fit, he would have lost that fight. Honestly. Rubbish performance. It's finished. Yeah. How old is he now? I think he's about 35. Million-year-old. Anthony Yarde age. It's over 33, 34 this year, man. For someone with that twitch, I'd probably say it's over. Unless he gets a handle on what he needs to do. Golovkin was pretty successful until about 36, 37. Doing it a certain way. Beterbiev, the same thing. This whole twitch rubbish. No one will sit there and tell you, that Golovkin's super quick or super twitchy. Super reaction, trying to be a cat. No one will tell you that about Beterbiev either. Point. You got to adapt as you get older. Your gas tank wasn't the best anyway. Never mind a 35-year-old gas tank trying to do the whole twitchy Mayweather rubbish that you never was no good at anyway, man. That's the truth here. Yarde came up knocking plumbers out. And he's kind of devolved into having faff-offs and fighting other people's fighting at their pace, doing it their way. Lyndon couldn't have believed his luck. After that second fight, 6 rounds in, Lyndon must have been like, whoa, I'm in this fight. He was never expecting that. So you're fighting Lyndon's fight, and he was looking like he was going to get the better of it until he decided to sit on the ropes. And I liked Pat Barry. Is it Pat Barry? No, Patrick Barrett. I'm not sure. His name's definitely Pat, but Lyndon's trainer was saying, "What are you doing on the ropes? Get off the ropes." It was quite a passionate corner work, so I rated that. But outside of that, he'd have won. Seriously, if Lyndon had been able to maintain his jab and pot shotting, jab, uppercut, which is what Lyndon likes to do, or them kind of shots, he'd have won this fight. Yarde didn't win it. I mean, it could have been a draw anyway. To be honest, it could have been a draw. Tell the truth, it's only the pressure really. But the way I judge fights, looking at the whole, I think Yarde probably lost, if that makes sense, given the circumstances. When you've been retired as a boxer, and you only come back because Yarde, the big British payday, is giving you it, how committed are you? You damn sure haven't been in the gym. consistently like you would be as a professional fighter, unless your name's Dave Allen. But yeah, you get the point. Lyndon spent his whole career in gyms and whatnot. He will have retired, not been doing. I think when this fight got signed, he said, "Yeah, I'm in bed, but this fight has got me out of bed." So he's rocked up. You'll never be as fit. I don't care if you have 12 weeks or not. A 12-week camp versus an active fighter who's training in his off season and having fights regularly. It's what it looked like. Lyndon's never had a problem with his legs giving out before, and it wasn't fought at a brutal pace. It wasn't like this fight was like the second fight that Lyndon had survived, for example, where he's been bashed up for 4 or 5 rounds, and then his legs have gone anyway later on. He was doing what he normally does. So this is shocking from Yarde. Seriously. Yeah, and I think someone said, "Oh yeah, Buatsi needs to rebuild." I think Yarde said Buatsi needs to rebuild. Bro, you need to get your begging pot out for Buatsi, because you might think that's a win. Buatsi lost against a Callum Smith who looked more or less as good as ever done. You really lost to a retired dude, a retired British level dude. Buatsi and Yarde, for me right now, they might as well have losses. If Yarde had got in there, don't bother telling me about, oh, AB, styles make fights. Styles make fights rubbish. Yeah? If that Yarde had got in there with Callum Smith, he might have got stopped. He was hanging himself. He was gasping in there. Smith might have stopped him, seriously. If Yarde had a fight like Buatsi did with Smith, Yarde might have got stopped. Because we know when Yarde's wheels fall off, you've seen Kovalev, you've seen Beterbiev. He might have got stopped by Smith, seriously. That's the fight to make now. Yarde is going to be a British derby man. British derby man means you're better than British level, but you're doing the big fights at British level. Buatsi, Smith, and then maybe on your way out, a Willie Hutchinson. That would probably create some kind of... you might make some coins there. It might be a money fight. We know he's with Frank Warren. It'll be good build-up and whatnot. That's what Yarde can look for now. Forget about world level. He'll do, imagine Benavidez in there. Benavidez he's quick. He's not the biggest puncher, but he's quick. And he would proper piece Yarde up. If Yarde couldn't whack him with something heavy early on and get... Yarde ain't clipped no one early. He couldn't clip the Latvian plumber, so he's not clipping Benavidez early. Yarde would get pieced up by Benavidez. He'd get pieced up by Beterbiev. He'd get pieced up by Bivol as well. So forget about world at this point. Now, no, I'm never going to write no one off, but let's be realistic here. Yarde needs to beg for Buatsi. And Buatsi, I think, well, Buatsi's stock, he might have lost here, but his stock ain't really dropped. It was a close fight and it looked good. This is the problem when you fight Stiflers. Sometimes it's better to lose to a proper guy, a bit like Yarde did with Beterbiev. He lost that fight, but it was a fight of the year and people was giving him credit. Whoa, you were giving him, going back and forth with that guy. Sometimes it's better to lose against a good guy than it is to stink the place out and arguably lose / win by a round against a retired fighter who you've already beat. So this, I have to say this, and we've been saying it for a while, but Yarde's mentality, it speaks volumes. Yeah. The mentality that we saw in there last night is the mentality of a man who chooses to fight Lyndon Arthur. And that is a shot man. No one wanted this fight. It made no sense. You knocked him out in 4 rounds. But for Yarde, it felt like, oh, here's an easy win. That's what it was supposed to be on paper. It turned out you stunk the place out and went life and death in there, 50-50. That was 50-50 life and death in there. That could have been an old school classic. It was a corny new school classic. He was going life and death in there. Toe for tooth in there. Seriously. Nip and tuck. You couldn't get a piece of tracing paper between how close that fight was. And you thought you was being smart, but no, in reality, it's a fighter who's not mentally with it, who even chooses to do that when the Buatsi fight was offered. And the problem is, when you keep fighting plumbers and keep looking bad, if your confidence wasn't good before, you've been life and death with a few plumbers now, how's it going to be feeling now? Yarde, no doubt, expected to go in there and knock this guy out. He didn't. So your confidence cascades lower. It's better to roll the dice and say, listen, man, I got beat by a better man who's top level. Because right now you're losing / getting life and death decisions over retired fighters and Latvian Deliveroo / GitHub drivers. Yeah? Let's see how it plays out, man. But my money almost got bumped, people. That's the truth here. Seriously. And this is the problem with these A-sides, man. Almost bumped my money, man. Seriously. It's lucky I reacted quickly because that fight could have gone either way. I swear down. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. Smash the like button, subscribe, like for the bell, 100%. There's not a doubt about this. Some people stop it. Bye.